Good morning to one and all. Welcome you all to the Daily Indian Express newspaper analysis for the date 21 to 23rd January 2024, brought to you by Ganesh IAS Academy. Okay, let's get into the today's newspaper analysis. So mentioned here are the list of articles which we are going to have the analysis in the upcoming slides. So have a look at it. So these are all the articles which we are going to have the analysis in the upcoming slide. Okay, let's discuss every article one by one. Asset monetization drive likely to generate 1.5 lakh crore this fiscal, and it is going to be led by the highest majority is going to be contributed by the mining department as well as the highway department. This is why what the news is about. Okay, let's look into how the news has been related with examination. Under prelims, it has been related with economic and social development. Similarly, under mains, it is related to GS paper 3, Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development and employment. So this is how the news has been related with examination. Okay, let's look into the details of the news. Led by mining as well as the highway, the center's asset recycling drive, that is the asset monetization drive, is going to generate resource, that is it is going to generate the monetary resource for the fresh investment in the infrastructure. And what they are expecting is that they are expecting around 1.5 lakh crore, and in that the highest majority is going to be contributed by the respective mining as well as the highway department, and this yield is going to be the highest since the formulation of national monetization pipeline. Like in the previous year, the same as this year also it is the mining and the highway department. Likewise, the previous year also it is the coal block and the mines is expected to yield rupees 55,000 crore to 60,000 crore like in the previous year. And for example, see in the financial year 2022, it yielded 68,000 crore. That is the mine as well as the coal block against the targeted 3,394 crore. And in financial year 23, it yielded around 68,000 crore against the targeted 6060 crore. And the National Highway Authority of India is going to be the second big contributor in terms of the monetization. That is, it is going to contribute around 45,000 crores this financial year. So this is what the news is about. Okay, let's look into what does this asset monetization is about. It is the process of creating a new alternative source of revenue by unlocking the economic value of underutilized public assets, and it offers public infrastructure to the institutional investors for or the private investors through the structured mechanism. There will be a mechanism or the process through which the monetization process will be taking place, and those assets will be given to the institutional investors or the public sectors, and in some cases it will go to the other public sector undertaking itself. And what is the advantage the asset monetization holds is, first and foremost, it acts as new revenue sources for the government departments, and secondly, it will increase the innovation in the underutilized assets or the public sector undertakings, so that because of injecting a new thought or the new process in the industry, in the assets or the sector, it will be leading to new innovation in the respective asset or the sector which has been handed over to the other organization, that is the investors or the private sectors, and it will be leading to better management practices, and also at the same time it will be leading to new infrastructural development because of these resources that has been obtained from the monetization process. So this is what the advantage the asset monetization holds. But under this, what does this national monetization pipeline is? It serves as the roadmap for asset monetization of several brownfield infrastructure assets across sectors, and it acts as the land bank housing information about all assets that have been lined up for utilization by strategic investors, and it will assess the potential value of unused as well as the underutilized government assets. So this is what the objective of the national monetization pipeline is about. So what advantages does it bring is that it will enable the government to augment the funding for the new infrastructural activities, and it act as input for the national infrastructure pipeline, a pipeline which has been introduced same as the on the parallel to the monetization pipeline to increase the infrastructure activity in India, and it will be leading to employment generation because of the pickup in the infrastructural activities, and it will be reducing the fiscal debt of the government, because whenever there is a lesser revenue for the infrastructure development with the government, means government will be borrowing from the outside or from the domestic source. So this monetization pipeline will act as the alternative funding mechanism for the infrastructure development, which in turn will be reducing the fiscal deficit of the government, and also it will attract the foreign direct investment. So this is what the advantages the asset monetization pipeline holds. So what are all the things which we needed to be further aware of is we should be aware of what is the national investment pipeline, what is infrastructure investment trust, and what is the different types of asset monetization that is present in India and also at in general. So these are all the different types, these are all the things which we needed to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. India-Myanmar border to be fenced, says Amit Shah, our Union Minister. So there is a plan to fence the border between India and Myanmar because of certain negative externalities that is been happening along the borders between India and Myanmar. So that is the reason why it is going to be fenced, and let's look into how the news is being related with examination. Under prelims, the news is related to current events of national and international importance. Similarly, under mains, it is related to GS paper 3, internal security, under a subtopic called security challenges and their management in border areas, linkages of organized crime with terrorism. So this is how the news has been related with examination in prelims as well as the mainstream. Okay, let's look into the explanation part of the news. So the government is considering to end the free movement regime with the Myanmar in the Manipur due to certain security issues, and government is going to have the smart fencing along the borders, so that the conventional there is some lacuna in the conventional fencing which will be overcome by the smart fencing. So the idea is not only to stop the insurgent activities, but also break the influx of illegal immigrants who have been entering through the India-Myanmar border because of the suppression they are facing in the Myanmar coup. And the Myanmar shares the 390 kilometers of porous border. That is, the Manipur shares the 390 kilometers of porous border with Myanmar, but only 10 kilometers has been fenced. And the border between India and Myanmar runs for nearly 1643 kilometers in 4 states of Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, and Arunachal Pradesh, which is very important from the perspective of prelims. And this free movement regime is mutually agreed arrangement between the India and Myanmar countries, which allows the tribes, those who are living in the opposite side of the borders, to move along the to move freely along on the different sides of the border. That is, up to which kilometer they could able to travel is 16 kilometers on the other side of the border, the tribe those who are present in the opposite side. And it has been implemented in 2018 as a part of India's Act East policy. So this is what the details of the news is about. So let's look into what is the reason for the free movement regime is, why it has been introduced in 2018 is, it will enable the people to connect with the same cultures. See, these borders has been drawn by during the British time for the administrative convenience, but the people, those who are living along the region, have been living there since the ancient times, and they have been connected through the cultural, ethnic as well as linguistic means. So this free movement regime will enable them to re-establish their cultural, ethnic as well as the other linguistic connections, and it will act as imputers to the local trade as well as the businesses, and it will sustain the local livelihood that is happening along the border. But what is the issues that has been faced since the implementation of the free movement regime is, because of the implementation, the illegal migrants have got increased. For example, the teaching people who have been suppressed by the Myanmar's army rule have been illegally moving towards India through the porous border. And the drug trafficking as well as the gun running is being rampant along the border. And then there is insurgent activities, that is the insurgents, those who are acting against the national interest of India, are staying in the Myanmar side along the border. So they're using the borders as the launch pad for the attack on the security personnel of India. So this is what the issues that has been raised by the free movement regime. So let's look into the border management. The Assam Rifle is deployed to guard the Indian-Myanmar border, and UAV, battlefield surveillance radar, less range finder, etc. are used to these are all the different technologies that have been introduced to secure the borders, and the comprehensive border infrastructure project undertaken to improve the border infrastructure along the India-Myanmar area. And at the same time, integrated checkposts at major entry points have also been placed in the land borders. So this is what the different steps that has been taken by government to ensure that the border there is the peace along the border. So what are all the things which we needed to be further aware of is this: we should be aware of the northeastern map and the vibrant village scheme and the structure function of the Assam Rifle and its history So these are all the other areas which we needed to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. India could ease restrictions on Chinese investment if border stays calm. Officials. So right now there is some restrictions to the Chinese investment coming inside India, but it will be eased in the future provided the border situation is cooled off. So that is what the response from the government side. That is the reason why it came in the newspaper. How the news has been related with the examination is, under prelims the news is related to economic and social development. Similarly, in the mains it is related to Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development and employment, which comes under GS paper 3, economic and development. Let's look into the further details of the news. India could ease its high scrutiny with China if the border situation is eased off. Despite the border problems, China is India's largest source for the import, with bilateral trade rising 32% since the tension flared up between the two countries, that is between two countries since 2020. So what does this 2020 FDI policy is about? And what in the FDI policy is an entity of a country which shares the land border with India, or where the beneficial owner of the investment into the India is situated in or as the citizen of any such country can only invest under the government rule. A transfer of ownership in an FDI that deals with the benefit that FDI that benefits any country that shares the border with India will also needed the government approval. And at the same time, the investors from country not covered by the new policies only have to inform the RBI after their investment. So this is what the reformulation in terms of FDI policy that took place in 2020, which checked the Chinese investment that is coming inside India. So let's look into the area of cooperation between the India and China. First and foremost, at international level, in terms of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, in terms of SCO, in terms of NDB, that is the Bank of BRICS, through this arena, India and China are cooperating for the economic partnerships. And in terms of security cooperation, they are partnered are the member of United Nations Conference on Disarmament, and at the same time there is increased exchange in terms of education, tourism, sports, youth, media to ensure the people to people connectivity between the countries, and to cooperate in they are acting on the same side or cooperating in the climate change against the developed countries irresponsibilities. So these are all the areas where India and China are right now cooperating despite the problems. And what is the benefit of if the problem has been resolved, means what is the benefit the India and China cooperation holds is that it will counterbalance the unilateral actions in terms of sanctions that has been made by the Western countries on the other countries, so on and so forth. And it will be acting as pooling of resource for the innovation as well as the technological development, and it will in turn ensure the market expansion for the export that has been happening in India, and it will act as symbiotic relationship. Why? Because on the one hand, Chinese are the manufacturing above the world, and at the same time India is the service hub. So both the countries could act as complementary and supplementary when the things are being eased up. So this is what the benefit it holds in terms of India and China cooperation. So what need to be studied further is we should be aware of the China map, and we should also be aware of the Doklam issue and the geography where it has taken place, and thirdly we should also be aware of the India-US relationship. So these are all the other areas which we needed to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. WTO dispute settlement body revival faces delay over countries' differences. So the WTO's dispute settlement body appointment process is right now halted because of the difference between the developed as well as the developing country. So that is the reason why it has been in news. Let's look into how the news has been related with examination. Under prelims, the news has been related with current events of national and as well as international importance. Similarly, under mains, it has been related to important international institutions, agencies, fora and their structure, which comes under GS paper through to international relationship. WTO dispute resolution body will take longer time to be constituted due to the difference of opinion or the differences between the developed as well as the developing country. Why? Because US since 2017 has been blocking the appointment of judges. Why it is blocking the appointment of judges with the dispute resolution body is, what US is saying is that nearly 155 disputes have been filed against the US country. So no other country has even touched the 100 dispute, and the 90% of the dispute pursued against it has led to the report finding that the US law is inconsistent with the WTO rules. That is the reason why the US is blocking the appointment of judges of the WTO's resolution body. So let's look into the WTO's dispute settlement body. What does it means? It is the General Council which convenes as the dispute resolution body in the WTO, and it deals with disputes between WTO members, and the dispute settlement body has the authority to establish dispute settlement panels and also at the same time refer matter to the arbitration and adopt panel, and to refer matter to the appellate body and the arbitration reports, and they maintain surveillance over the implementation and recommendation of the reports or the ruling made by the respective panels, and they authorize the suspension of contentions in the event of non-compliance with those recommendation and rulings. So this is what the dispute settlement body of the WTO is about, and the function of this dispute settlement body is about. Let's look into the appellate body. It has been established in 1995 under Article 17 of the rules and procedure governing the settlement of dispute, and it is the standing body of 7% that hears the appeals from the reports issued in the panels in the dispute settlement body. And the appellate body can uphold, modify or reverse the legal finding of the conclusion of the panel, and the appellate body reports are adopted by the dispute settlement body, and at the same time it has its seat in Geneva and Switzerland. The appellate body is comprised of 7 members who are appointed by the dispute settlement body, and they are also required to be unaffiliated with any government, and they need to broadly represent the different geography of the globe. So this is what the function and as well as the structure of the appellate body is about. So what we need to be study further is, we should be aware of what is ICJ and what is International Criminal Court and what is the Permanent Arbitration Court is about. You should be aware of the difference between three of them and their structure, function and their mandate and how the judges have been appointed in the respective courts. So these are all the other areas which we needed to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. Okay, let's look into another topic, that is the drivers of food inflation. So right now the food inflation in domestic level is very high when compared to the international level. So that is the reason why the news has been changed in the article of the today's newspaper. Let's look into how the news has been related with examination. Under prelims, the news has been related with economic and social development. Similarly, under mains, it has been related with Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development and employment, which comes under GS paper 3, economic and development. Okay, let's look into the details of the news. The world food price has crashed from the peak that has scaled in 2002 in the aftermath of Russian-Ukraine war and its consequence of the supply chain constraint. And United Nations FAO widely tracked food price index average 143.7 points in 2022 and 125.7 points in the 2021. But this index, which calculates the food price over the base year 2014-2016, has fell to 124 in this 23 financial year. So we could able to see a dip in the international food prices. And what is the contrast with the domestic prices is that globally food inflation based on the FAO index has been in negative territory since November 22 after some times of the Russian-Ukraine war. In India, it has been opposite side. Even after November 22, despite the inflation at the international level is at the negative territory, the inflation at the domestic arena is at its peak. That is, it has touched the 9.5% in December 23. So we could able to see here that here the red line indicates the global inflation, food price inflation, where we could able to see that during a point it has, that is January 2021, it has touched a peak of some 40% and then it drastically got reduced in the January 23 to minus 20%, and then it got picked up slightly during December 23, and still it is in negative territory only. But we could able to see that the blue line, which indicates the domestic inflation, it is constantly maintaining a positive inflation rate. That is, it is ahead than the average 5% of inflation. Right now it is during December 23, as I said, it is 9.53%. What is one reason for this divergence in terms of the inflation at the global as well as the international level is the limited transmission of the international price to the food inflation or the deflation in the domestic arena, that is in India. The usual route where the transmission will be taking place between the international price as well as the domestic prices through the import as well as export. The scope for the transmission of this global inflation to the domestic price in India is however being limited to two agri commodities only. Why? Because in terms of pulses and in terms of vegetable oil, India is heavily dependent on other countries. So in these two crops only, any changes in the international price will have an effect in the domestic price. But in terms of other agri products like cereals, sugar, dairy, poultry, fruits, vegetables, etc., India is self-sufficient, and India is also acting as exporters. So, but in the recent times, because of the inflation at the domestic level, the central government has banned the shipment of wheats, non-basmati rice, as well as the other agri products, which in turn has closed the export-led inflation in India. So the export-led price changes that will be happening that will be happening if the products that has been exported to other country, such that line has been plugged because of the recent ban in terms of certain agriculture products. And at the same time, in terms of import, except the two commodities, that is the vegetable oil and the pulses, India is self-sufficient, and there is no need for India to import bulk quantity, because India is producing itself. So in both the cases, there is no influence from the, that is in both the cases means in the import as well as the export, there is no influence from the international prices. That is the reason why there is a divergence. And the global cues, that is the inflation in the domestic area is deglobalized because of the recent the explanation in the previous slide. The government has ensured the whether the export curbs on export curbs or the importing at the less duty could control the inflation. That is, through this mechanism also the international price is not affecting the domestic prices. The low global price, that is the Russian wheat, is currently exported at $240 against the $432 in June 22, and then the Indonesian palm oil, which is landing in Mumbai at the $940 per ton from the average $1,828 in the March 22, means that, so we could able to see that in terms of the Russian exported wheat as well as the Indonesian palm oil, the price has been reduced when compared to the previous level. But the threat of the imported, it means that what does it means is that the threat of this imported inflation is ruled out. And at the same time, the Red Sea attack, which has been happening at the which has been happening in the Red Sea area, which it is the major shipment route for the international trade, is been it has been under attack by the Houthi rebels. But in terms of majority of our agriculture products, it is not passing through that area. So the attack on the ship by the Houthi rebels is insignificant to the agri commodities that has been imported to India's. And it is only the sunflower oil which is being carried from the Russia and Ukraine ports are forced to encircle the African continent, as because of which the Russian the sunflower oil share in terms of the sunflower oil price or the imported price got increased because of the extended route that it is taking because of the attack in the Red Sea. But the sunflower oil share in the total edible oil that has been imported from India is mere 3 metric ton from the out of the total 16 metric ton that has been imported by India. The remaining edible oil is being imported from the Indonesia as well as the Malaysian countries, which is present in the Indo-Pacific region. So there is no connection between the Red Sea as well as the Indo-Pacific region. So this is the thing. So we could, from the above slide, we could able to see that the international situations or the international prices doesn't have any kind of impact on the domestic prices. So what is the domestic factors that has led to increased inflation is, see, the crop of concerns or the crop which is right now peaking in terms of its price are cereals, pulses and sugars. These cereals and pulses inflation has touched the 9.9% and 20.7% respectively in December. And this is what the thing is about. And the government can say that because of the increased heat wave that has happened in previous year during the Rabi season, the production in terms of the cereals has got impacted, and the unexpected, the unseasonal rainfall that has happened during the March time period, where the harvesting of the cereals will be taking place, of the harvesting of the Rabi crop cereals will be taking place. The unseasonal rainfall has led to lesser production, even though the acreage got higher. And at the same time, the lesser amount of sugar stocks that has been available with the millers. So these are all the domestic factors that has led to increased demand or the shortage in terms of supply in the respective cereals, sugars, etc. So this is what the thing is about. So on the overall, it is not the global price that is affecting the domestic price. It is only the domestic factors that has led to the surge in the global price. So that is the reason. So that is the final conclusion that has been arrived through this article. So what need to be studied further is we should be aware of what is MSP, what is PDS, and what are all the different types of rabi as well as kharif crops that is being present. So these are all the other areas which we needed to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. Okay, let's move on to today's practice prelims question. Mentioned here is the today's practice prelims question. Those students, those who are watching this session online, please do comment the option point for the question which you are seeing right now on the board. So with this, we have reached the end of today's session. Please do like, comment, share as well as subscribe Ganesh IAS YouTube channel so that you will be receiving daily current affairs session and also the weekly science and tech and environmental related current affairs session and any other current affairs session that will be brought to you in the future by Ganesh IAS Academy. Thank you.